Hey guys, welcome back to Successful Investing, where I go over some ways to help you manage the gifts that you've been given. Do this particularly through investing. Today I'm going to cover the proof that shows that people have beaten the market and they've beaten it consistently, and that you can too. So before we jump into the returns of some of my favorite investors, I wanted to briefly cover the strategy that they use and that I use and that all the other patient value investors use. And it hinges on two things. And the first is that it is simple to understand. And Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett's partner at Berkshire Hathaway, he's famously quoted as saying, that this investing strategy is not taught in colleges because it's so simple and so obvious that it wouldn't even fill one semester of class. So know that you can understand this strategy. And the second thing is that Warren Buffett says rule number one is to not lose money. So you're not going to speculate or gamble with your investments. These are going to be high confidence investments that you are 99% sure are going to pay off and be successful. So there are 5 investors that I want to cover today. They are all patient value investors, and they know rule number 1, which is to not lose money. And we'll go over in future episodes how you're going to do that and how you're going to do that successfully. But the first one that I want to cover is Walter Schloss. And he gained popularity back in 1984 when Warren Buffett gave his speech, The Superinvestors of Graham-and-Doddsville, in it which Warren just basically said that it is possible to beat the market, and the people that are beating the market are doing it in the exact same way. They're all doing it in highly concentrated portfolios. So let's take a look at some of Walter's annual returns. So we are looking at a period here of 28 years from 1956 to 1983, and this is Walter Schloss. In that time period, he had a 21.43 return versus the S&P's 9.5. And we look at the S&P 500 because that is the benchmark for fund managers. If a fund manager can beat the S&P in any given year, they're considered to be doing a good job. And I calculated this average annual compound return using this formula here. If you want to know more, I'll leave a link in the description about that formula. But other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory. I started both of them off with $10,000 and compounded it based on their annual returns for that given year. And if you think about it, you think, Walter did twice as well as the S&P. His returns will be twice as good. But no, it's actually substantially different due to the power of compounding, and you'll see that as we get down to 1983, where Walter is left with a little over $2 million, and the S&P only has 129,000. And next we're going to take a look at Lou Simpson. He managed the investments for Geico, and Warren Buffett noted him in his 2004 annual report and said that if anything would ever happen to him, Lou was going to take over the investments at Berkshire. So this is a period between 1980 and 2004, in it which Lou had a 20.3 versus the S&P's 13.5. The S&P on average returns about 7%. So this was a really good year, or a series of years for the S&P 500. If you carry the $10,000 out all the way down for Lou, you'd be ended up with $1 million, and for the S&P you would have a little over $200,000. Next, we're going to take a look at Guy Spear, and Guy Spear manages the Aquamarine Fund. He is a more current investor. This is the most recent info I could find on him over the period of these 18 years. Guy had a 8.91 versus the S&P's 6.18, and this is a more typical return for the S&P. Like I said, it averages around 7%. So Guy isn't doing a heck of a lot better job than the S&P, but he is consistently beating it. And if you carry his $10,000 out, you'd be left with almost double what the S&P would have. Next, we're going to take a look at Manish Pabrai, who runs the Pabrai Funds. And this is a current fund he operates. Over these 19 years, he had a 16% return versus the S&P's 5%. And he absolutely crushed the market. His $10,000 would have turned into $167,000 versus the S&P's $24,000. So very well run portfolio by Manish at Pabrai Funds. Next, we're going to take a look at the greatest investor of them all, and that is Warren Buffett. And Warren manages Berkshire Hathaway, and he's done that since 1965, and he still manages it today. Over that 54-year period, Warren did twice as well as the S&P, and as we know, that is going to give him a huge advantage over the S&P. So let's take a look at his $10,000. If you invested in 1965, you would be left with, that's right, $250 million versus $10,000 with the S&P. Over this time period, you'd be left with $1.5 million. So the results speak for themselves. Take a look at Warren Buffett. He is the greatest investor. Any book you can find with him or about him is going to be extremely helpful to your investing knowledge. So these are just 5 of my favorite investors. There are plenty more out there who have beaten the market. And this flies right in the face of efficient market theory, which states that at all times the market is efficient and that nobody can beat the market. And these 5 investors have proven that that is not true, and they've proven it over long periods of time. Efficient market theory is the viewpoint of a lot of fund managers today. They don't believe you can beat the market, so they just try to match the market. And as you guys have seen, it is possible to beat the market. And we're going to talk a lot more in future episodes about this strategy that they use. What does it mean to have a concentrated portfolio? How to identify quality businesses with sustainable competitive advantages, and how to value those businesses and then buy them on sale. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Be sure to be tuned to my channel and you'll get the latest content. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Oh, hey guys. Be sure to check out the links in the description for more content. It applies to this video.